Hey, how's it going? It's Chris, and in this video I want to talk to you about different kinds of ways that you can make the conversation sexual so that you can do it consistently, very easily, and just have fun, flirty, sexual conversations. So the first one is what I call sexual reframes. This is when the girl says something that you could misconstrue as something sexual, as if she meant it in a sexual way. So to give you two examples, that would be, let's say, if the girl says, "Wow, I had the hardest test today." And she's talking about the difficulty of her test. You could make it sound and twist it as if she's referencing a penis. So you could be like, "Oh, so you must have really liked how hard it was then," or it was, "Oh, really? How hard was it?" And just kind of making it sound like she's actually really talking about an erection, a hard on, a penis. That'll really, you could use that. Another one would be, let's say you're waiting for the taxi and the girl says, "Oh my God, what's taking this guy so long to come?" You could say, "I've never heard a girl complain about a guy taking too long to come before," right? If you make comments like that, they're going to be starting to make it sexual. I'm not saying you're getting laid off comments like that only, but I am saying it's a great way to start introducing it. And another great way is sexual questions. So I've broken this down into three levels. The same way I talked about the three levels of sexualization, same thing. Level one would just be something flirty. That's asking her, "Oh, so you don't have a boyfriend, do you?" Or when was the last time you had a boyfriend? You could ask her, "What was your longest relationship?" Things like that. Are you into guys or girls? Comments like that are they're pretty above the surface, and so you could get away with them. They're not asking for really a lot of personal information. Level two, and remember, you'll make these comments when the girl is generally comfortable with your touch. This would be when you ask comments like, how old were you when you lost your virginity? Or what are your favorite sexual positions? Where's the craziest place that you've had sex? Have you ever had sex with somebody that you weren't supposed to? You could even ask her, "Have you ever hooked up with a girl before?" These are all what I would consider level two, where they're a little bit private, but if she's comfortable enough with you, she'll share that side of herself with you, right? Then level three is what we call X-rated. And this is when you're going to start getting more graphic. You're going to start asking her questions like, "So how would you like me to fuck you?" Or "How would you want me to fuck you?" You could ask her, excuse me, "How hot would it be if I laid you down right on this table in front of everyone and ate your pussy?" If you were to ask her a question like that, that is definitely getting way more graphic, way more personal. Or do you prefer I finger your G spot or play with your clit? What do you like more, when a guy plays with your G spot or your clit? Comments like that, questions like that are really starting to get personal. And I'm sure you would expect to ask questions like this in the bedroom. Sometimes you could do it earlier. Remember, the line there we say is when the girl is comfortable making out with you. Now, the last one is what we call sharing sexual experiences. So I've broken this also down in three levels. Typically, I do this through the use of storytelling. So the level one would be what we call flirtatious. And this is if you were to tell her a story about maybe an ex-girlfriend you dated. So for example, back in high school, I dated this girl. She was so hot and she was so sweet. And basically, you're perfect next door, girl next door. And I remember my mom loved her. I introduced her to my whole family on Christmas, and they were crazy about her. And that's actually when I learned that if I could introduce a girl to my family, that girl's probably very special to me. And you may realize that what happened there was we talked about romance, we talked about you dating hot girls and high quality girls, so it demonstrates you as somebody attractive, but it also kind of allows the possibility of long-term relationship qualities, which a lot of girls do find attractive. So stories like that are flirtatious, but they're not super explicit. Level two would be something a little bit more sexual, a little bit more romantic. So if you were to tell her, let's say this story. One time I was skinny dipping with a girl in the ocean, and then we went to go wash our feet off by the pool. And while I was washing my feet off, I fell in the pool and I was holding both of our phones, and she was so pissed off. But eventually she calmed down, and I gave her $100, so she was cool with that. But it worked out in the end because we ended up having a whole weekend fling, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. So notice how the element here that's differentiating it, level two from level one, is the sex, right? But we're still not getting super graphic. We're talking about a sexual experience. So it's making the dynamic even more sexual now, even though you're not specifically talking about her. And at the same time, it makes you look high value. I've had sexual experiences. I've had cool experiences. I've had cool stories. and so on. Then there's level 3, and this is what we call X-rated. So if you were to say to the girl, this one time I was fucking this girl from behind. I remember I was pulling her hair and smacking her ass, and she was just loving it so much. And then she just turned around to me and she said, "Chris, I really want you to come in my mouth." And I did, and it was one of the hottest experiences of my life. I don't think I'll ever forget that moment. If you were to share that story, obviously that's way more graphic. It's going to make it way more sexual, and she's going to see you in a way different light as far as your sexuality and your sexual dynamic between you and her goes. And you probably also realize that you could tie a lot of these together. So, for example, you could tie in asking her a sexual question and then lead in with a sexual story, or maybe telling her a sexual story and then asking her a question if she's ever had a similar experience. You could even make a sexual misinterpretation, then tell her a story of something similar like that happening to you and asking her if she's ever had similar. You could really play around with it. That's why I really like these. They're so versatile. There's so much you could do with it, and they make your conversations way more fun.